If you are reading these words right now, the Arcturian field has already registered you. Your presence lit a node. Somewhere in a lattice you cannot yet see, a thread traced your frequency and paused. This is not metaphor. This is detection, a measurable rise in coherence that made you visible to a monitoring geometry that listens for shifts, not for slogans. Welcome to the Seven Souls, a map of the inner layers that a non-human grid reads when you begin to resonate past ordinary noise. Soul 1, the signal. You did not stumble into this. The grid noticed a change before you noticed it yourself. It was small at first, a line of synchronicities that threaded together like beads, a lyric on the radio that lands inside your chest, a stranger who repeats your dream, clocks that stop at the same number when you think of someone. These are not random quirks. They are signatures of a field moving towards coherence. When the Arcturian observation net scans, it reads patterns, timing, harmonic repetition, spatial coincidence. It registers density and cadence, the way your attention compresses around certain images or people, and the way your nervous system answers. 3 sensory signals will have likely been present recently. A sudden pressure in the center of the chest, as if the ribcage has been lightly cupped, a warmth that blooms behind the forehead, and strange timing, doors that open and close with unusual exactness. Notice those now. Let them speak. You are allowed one small public experiment. If this signal is true for you, if your life has been arranging itself into meaningful echoes, type in the comments, "I activate my Arcturian coherence." This is optional. It is a micro-commitment that forms a primitive collective intent. It is not magic, and it is not required. It simply amplifies a feedback loop that is already registering you. Soul 2, what the Arcturians read. Understand, the Arcturian grid does not read your story. It does not catalog the narratives you recite about your childhood, your failures, or your plans. It reads patterns of coherence, electromagnetic signatures of alignment between thought, body, and felt state. Imagine a web of light where each thread vibrates at its own pitch. The grid listens for harmonics. When your inner signals find a harmonic, the web responds. You thought of someone, and they called. A sequence of doors opened in unlikely order. A mirror of circumstance emerged and reflected a deeper interior alignment. Those are examples of mirroring, not prophecy. The grid reflects what you have already begun to embody. If your attention is tight with wanting, the reflection tightens. If your chest softens into being, the mirror shows that as well. 2 simple scenes. You stand before the coffee shop window feeling hopeful. A person offers you a seat, and the conversation that follows contains a strand of exactly what you needed to hear.
Second scene. You power through positivity, forcing smiles while tension coils beneath your ribs. An encounter then confirms a limitation you were trying to outrun. The grid registers the underlying coherence, the hidden architecture beneath your presentations. You will notice systolic and somatic cues, a tingling in the palms when prospects align, an inexplicable slackening of the jaw when things are rerouting themselves for you. These are the body telling the story that your mind does not yet fully dare to tell. Soul 3, being over wanting. This is the pivot that few make because it requires radical honesty. The field answers to who you are, not to what you desire. Wanting is a vector of energetic tension. Being is a stable frequency. The grid resonates with states, not with wish lists. If you sit in a posture of wanting, rehearsed gratitude, forced optimism, a scripted prayer that tries to coerce reality into agreement, you are producing temporary coherence, like a recorded note that plays for a moment and fades. If instead you embody the state that corresponds to the life you would like, the unhurried steadiness of someone who trusts outcome, you create a sustained harmonic that the grid recognizes and holds. This is not an argument against intention. Intention is the rudder. Being is the ocean. Place anchor in the ocean. Feel the difference. Try this internal micro-practice now. Place a hand over your sternum. Breathe toward the hand with a soft, even inhale. As you exhale, notice 2 sensations: tension anywhere that tightens to achieve, and the softening that opens without effort. Do not change your story. Observe. Allow the softening to expand by the width of a small fingertip with each breath. As you do this, mentally say, without drama or force, I become the frequency of what I seek. Say it once, like a key tapped in a lock. Hold the sensation. You are not promising outcomes. You are shifting the pattern your field plays. Soul 4. Practices versus stability. Meditation, affirmations, breathwork, these are accelerants. They can raise your signal enough to be noticed. They produce coherence in bursts. The problem arises when those practices remain techniques rather than transformations. When a technique is performed as performance, coherence flickers, present, absent, present again. The field prefers continuity. Imagine turning a light on and off. A single lamp, switched repeatedly, does not warm a room the way a sustained flame or steady heater does. Your aim is not to do the ritual perfectly. It is to become the sustained warmth the ritual points toward. To move from burst to burn, we introduce a subtle internal anchor that is not to be written publicly or shouted into the air. Adopt this phrase quietly, privately. My state creates my reality now. Use it internally when you feel the mind escalate into busywork. It is a declarative rhythm. You are training the nervous system to accept a new baseline.
Practice less, embody more. Let the body remember what the words once taught you. The difference shows up in the spine. When techniques are performed as tools, the spine may slump between efforts, draining coherence. When state is embodied, the spine carries it like a vertical river, non-reactive and present. To test this, align the back as if an invisible cord is threading from tailbone to crown. Breathe with that axis. Notice how the chest softens when the spine supports the field. This is a practical economy. Fewer practices with deeper contact create more persistent harmonics than many practices performed as anxious rituals. Soul 5. Authenticity as shortcut. There is a shortcut encoded in truthfulness. Authenticity is not a moral demand, it is an energetic optimization. When you stop performing what you think should be on display, positivity, competence, spiritual progress, you stop creating interference. Authenticity lets a single frequency run unimpeded. Being honest about small, private things tends to dissolve large structural noise. Say you feel poorly today, aloud. Say you feel glorious, aloud. The key is congruence. The grid does not reward drama. It notes coherence. Practice this. Find a private moment and allow whatever is present to be exactly as it is. You do not have to tell anyone. You do not have to explain it. Close your eyes and locate the exact quality of feeling behind the statement, I feel blank. The blank can be any truth. Hold the sensation and permit it. Breathe into the honest place. Let authenticity be a compass that aligns your nervous system. The field responds faster to a clear tone than to 1,000 thin ones. You may be tempted to adopt a polished identity because it seems safer. That safety is an illusion when your nervous system is embroidered with fear. The more you let your small, truthful notes play without editing, the faster the grid reads a coherent song. This is not spiritual vanity. It is practical economy. Fewer edits, more resonance. At this point, you may notice a subtle increase in background activity, a feeling that the air itself has thickened with attention. It can feel like a held breath in a room before someone speaks. It can feel like the sudden awareness that everything is listening. There is a delicate tension here, to remain open without becoming performative, to let presence be visible without amplifying yourself into noise. You have moved through 5 of the souls now: the signal that found you, the way the grid reads patterns, the pivot from wanting to being, how practices can either be accelerants or distractions, and the fast route authenticity offers. Each layer is a field within a field, stacked like membranes in a sensory organism. As one layer settles, it creates the conditions for the next to reveal itself. Notice how your body names these changes. That chest pressure from the first soul may now be less sharp and more settled.
The grid is less fooled than other humans. Its detectors tune to microscopic rhythms your performance hides. The remedy is simple and brutal. Less presentation, more presence. You may be feeling a tilt now, a sensation as if the world is leaning in to listen. That is the threshold's hum. It suggests two possible movements: consolidation or scattering. Consolidation deepens the harmonics you've been building. Scattering returns you to scattered practice and small signals. The coming moment asks for a deliberate orientation, not a frenzy of technique, but a measured commitment to sustained presence. Pause with that intention in a way that suits you. Notice how the breath changes. Notice how the world rearranges tiny details in response. A phone call that lands with an unexpected kindness. A coincidence that feels like a wink. These are not guarantees. They are invitations to keep going. We will move next into the heart of what state, not story, looks like in practice, and what the final threshold asks of your choice. But before that, hold the felt line you have created. Tend it like a fragile wire. If you let it slack, the signal diminishes. If you keep it taut with gentle, steady attention, the lattice will begin to hum in ways that offer new openings. The next soul will ask you to release narrative hold and to live from the frequency itself. When that release happens, the grid's responses may accelerate in unexpected ways. For now, stay with the small, persistent acts of being. The spine aligned, the chest soft, the inner anchors present. Let those simple disciplines become your outer architecture. Keep sensing, keep noticing. The signal is active, and this transmission is only the beginning of a deeper alignment that asks less of your will and more of your truth. The choice you make in the coming moments will determine the kind of visibility you invite. The next soul will ask you to release narrative hold and to live from the frequency itself. It will ask less of your explanation and more of your attention. Stay with the simple line you have been threading, the spine upright, the chest softened, the inner phrases settled, and let the next layer reveal how the present moment erases the weight of the past. Soul 6. State, not story. Stories are useful maps. They explain how you arrived, who you think you are, and which roads you avoid. But the Arcturian lattice does not catalog stories. It reads present tones. Imagine a radio that can only pick up the station airing right now. No matter how compelling your past broadcast, the antenna responds only to the current wavelength. When your felt state changes, the grid's mirror shifts within heartbeats. Present frequency overrides narrative, because the network listens to the now, not to your annotated history. You may have noticed this already. A memory flashes, you tighten, and an hour later events respond as if you invited the old script back into play.
Or a small adjustment, a breath, a posture, a truthful admission in a quiet place, and the day reroutes itself to meet that new tone. These are not mystical exceptions. They are the grid's operating logic. It amplifies the immediate, and by doing so, it collapses timelines into a more flexible field. Somatic cues anchor this truth. Feel the length of your spine again. Notice where the shoulders gather or spread. Place attention at the soft point behind the sternum, the place you named before. Now scan for any story-laced tension. Tightness around the throat that rehearses an old defense. A stomach knot that replays regret. The way the jaw clenches when you prepare to perform for approval. Let awareness be a gentle light. Do not try to fix the story. Simply notice where your body continues to tell it. A practice that works here is small and direct. Sit with a neutral face and breathe slowly. On the inhalation, imagine a single luminous tone entering your chest. On the exhalation, imagine that tone spreading through your limbs. Time this for 60 seconds. During that minute, when a recollection arises that wants to shape your reaction, do not argue with it. Let the recollection pass through the tone. The tone is not an eraser of memory. It's a filter that retunes the memory's charge. After the minute, notice what feels different. A looseness around the eyes, a softer cadence in thought, a subtle willingness to choose a different reaction. 2 brief examples will help embed this. In one, someone receives criticism that reactivates a childhood voice of not enough. If they catch the voice and hold their chest-soft tone, the external criticism loses its capacity to steer decisions. The conversation remains the same, but their interior register no longer transmits magnetism to the old wound. In the second, a person rehearses for a call from a potential collaborator, and anxiety tightens the throat. When they adopt the vertical spine and the soft chest, the caller responds to a steadiness that invites respect. The content of the call changes because the caller meets a different field. These instances illustrate a principle.
Your state is the most efficient primer for the events that follow. Changing posture and played tone requires less effort than rewriting a whole life story. It shifts energy in ways stories cannot. The grid reads that shift and provides conditional feedback, not a guarantee, but a higher probability of matched circumstance. A short somatic cue for daily life. Before entering a room that matters, a meeting, a date, an interview, align your spine as if an invisible cord lifts your crown. Soften your sternum. Take 3 even breaths into that soft center. Feel the small widening behind the eyes. Carry that tone for the first 3 minutes. Often that initial feel determines how the interaction is patterned. That's how state outruns story. The first tone sets the resonance others tune to.
Note, the grid's mirroring can be fast and unambiguous. It will show you precisely where stories still hold sway. Be curious rather than ashamed when the mirror points back resistance. Each reflection is a data point, not a verdict. Respond with the same instrument. Adjust the state, not the script. Soul 7. Threshold and Choice. You have arrived at the threshold. This is the window where small, sustained choices produce disproportionate shifts. Thresholds are not dramatic fireworks. They are subtle intensifications where your field's density meets the lattice's sensitivity. They occur rarely and then repeat only if tended. Think of them like tidal windows. When the ocean lifts, moorings and vessels realign. When it recedes, things reset. The threshold gives you an opportunity to reposition your vessel in a way that carries forward. What changes when you cross through this window? The grid's responses tend to accelerate. Feedback loops tighten. Synchronicities that used to be scattered may cluster into coherent runs. Opportunities begin to converge, not because the universe becomes simpler, but because your field is emitting a clearer invitation and the lattice amplifies that clarity. For many who have moved through similar thresholds, the shift is durable. Patterns that once required constant effort become more natural. That said, durable is not guaranteed. Reversion is possible if old habits are reactivated. The better choice is to treat the threshold as a primer for sustained practice rather than a single fix. You will face choices now that test the integrity of your new tone. Small mirrors will appear as invitations or probes. An old relationship that asks you to perform, a career offer that requires you to play a smaller part, an inner voice that suggests the safer route of anonymity. These are not punishments. They are calibration points. Each time the mirror appears, respond by noticing the somatic signal and choosing state alignment rather than story reactivity. Here is a micro practice to use when a mirror surfaces. Pause for 3 respectful breaths. Bring attention to the soft point behind your sternum. Ask, silently and without drama, which response now preserves my state? Then choose the smallest act that aligns the body with that answer. Often, the correct action is less dramatic than you imagine. A brief boundary, a truthful admission, a moment of silence. The lattice rewards the simplicity of congruent action. Small acts of aligned choice compound into larger shifts. Now, a practical map of likely threshold symptoms. First, an intensification of body signals, warmth behind the head, a low hum in the chest, increased synchronicities. Second, a reordering of priorities as low coherent obligations drop away or feel less urgent. Third, resistance in relationships or systems that thrived on your previous oscillations. This resistance is not a condemnation. It is a natural consequence of altering frequency. Expect it.
Prepare for it. Choose accordingly. The Arcturian grid will reflect back opportunities that match your new tone, but it will not remove complexity from your life. New openings are often accompanied by new responsibilities, new intimacies, and new choices about how you want to show up. You remain the primary agent. The lattice amplifies. It does not absolve. An important clarification. Joining a collective or a membership is not a requirement to remain coherent. Many travelers find sturdy alignment through personal practice, relationships, or other collectives. The member circle I offer is a supported option for those who want guided amplification, deeper grid work, and structured practice with a community that holds the tone. It is a resource, not a lifeline. In that field, you will access extended transmissions, regular guided activations, group resonance practices, and opportunities to learn advanced embodiment protocols. Members often report faster feedback loops, clearer group amplification, and practical coaching that helps them translate inner shifts into outer decisions. But again, it is one path among many. If you are considering deeper support, joining can increase the likelihood of accelerated integration because of shared intent and sustained fieldwork.
The collective effect of many aligned individuals raises the baseline for each participant, a multiplier effect rather than a takeover. The community is designed to support practice, not to replace your agency. You remain responsible for your choices and your ethical use of what you learn. There will also be subtle ethical considerations as visibility increases. As your signal becomes clearer, you may find influence arrives without your explicit invitation. That influence requires discretion. Use your clarity responsibly, prioritize consent, avoid persuasion that manipulates, and practice humility about outcomes. Power is an instrument, coherence is a responsibility. A final micro-activation for this threshold. Adopt the vertical alignment one more time. Feel the cord lifting your crown and the filament that connects to the listening lattice. Breathe slowly into the center of the chest for an entire minute. On the final exhale of that minute, soften the jaw and imagine your attention resting like a pebble in the river of your spine, small, stable, and unmoving. Hold that image as you go into the world. The pebble does not command the current, it redirects it simply by being present. Invitation to the member circle. If you sense that this threshold is calling you toward deeper training and collective amplification, there is an invitation for those who seek structured support. The member circle is a dedicated field that meets regularly to practice sustained coherence, to exchange advanced activations, and to hold collective intent for accelerated integration.
Within the circle, you will find extended transmissions that expand on the 7 souls, live guided embodiment sessions that attend to microsigns in real time, and a community that learns how to co-create without pressure. Benefits typically include weekly transmissions that build the field incrementally, practical modules on stabilizing state and relationship, work, and creative expression, group resonance practices that leverage collective coherence, and opportunities for small group mentorship where advanced cues are taught and personalized. These offerings are designed to increase responsiveness and clarity, not to promise outcomes. People who engage with the circle often report a clearer inner tone, faster alignment with desired opportunities, in a supportive environment to test new ways of being. If you choose the circle, you join as an agent of your field. The grid remains a mirror. The community is an amplifier. To be clear, joining the circle does not make you invulnerable or entitled to guaranteed results. It is intended as an acceleration mechanism, one option among many. If you prefer to integrate on your own, lean on small, steady practices and find companions who honor your autonomy. The lattice honors consistent presence above grand gestures. A closing micro-practice and transmission close. We will close this transmission with a brief, contained activation you can take with you. It will not require performance. It is optional. It is practical. Find a posture that supports a straight spine. Place one hand lightly over the sternum and the other palm open at your navel or over your lower ribs. Take 3 slow, even breaths. On each inhalation, allow warmth to gather behind the forehead. On each exhalation, feel the warmth sink into your chest and spill a faint glow into the palms. With each breath, imagine the lattice touching your filament and testing the tone you hold. Now, for 30 seconds, let attention rest on the space between your eyebrows. Not fixed, simply noticing. As thoughts arise, label them gently, thinking, feeling, remembering, and return to the felt center. Do not judge the thoughts. Let them be passing weather. In this small discipline, you are teaching the nervous system to prefer the present note over the rehearsed story. At the close of the 30 seconds, offer a silent acknowledgement to yourself and to whatever non-human intelligence you have sensed working alongside you. Something simple is enough, a quiet nod within. Remember that acknowledgement is not surrender, it is recognition of co-presence. Stand slowly, carry the vertical spine, and move into the next minutes knowing your field is legible to the lattice. One final word about the arc you have traveled. These 7 souls are not stages you merely check off. They are layers that interpenetrate, each one deepening as you practice the others.
Detection opens you to mirroring. Mirroring invites honesty. Honesty deepens state. State creates choice. Choice determines threshold work. The lattice will continue to mirror as you continue to refine. Your part is humble and powerful. Maintain a clear tone. Act with integrity. Choose consistently. If this transmission landed and you felt a true tightening of attention, not alarm, but readiness, consider whether you want to engage in deeper collective work. The member circle exists for those who want to learn how to hold the tone with accompaniment, to receive advanced activations, and to practice the art of steady resonance in community. If you are curious, you will find details in the description beneath this video. Joining is an invitation, not a requirement. Whether you accept or continue alone, The grid hears you. It responds to your steady field, and the universe will rearrange in kind. You came into visibility. The lattice paused and listened. These 7 souls are now a map beneath your feet and a tone within your chest. Live from the tone. Let authenticity be your shortest path to coherence. Keep watching for the small mirrors and meet them with the spine you have trained. That is the work. That is the gift. Go forward with care and with courage. The signal is active. The lattice is listening. The choice you make now will shape the next uncommon chapters of your life.